America is worse than China. Seriously. China is richer than the USA. China has no homeless people. Housing is cheaper in China compared with the USA. China's infrastructure and public transportation are the best in the world, and Chinese people are happier than Americans. Also, don't forget, China is the leader of environmental measures and green technology. Bullshit. The Chinese government is trying to fool you through paid propaganda social media campaigns targeting you, and judging by what I'm seeing, it's working. Let this be the definitive video that proves that China is far worse than the USA in nearly every single metric. And let this be the video that you send to people that you know that are being tricked by China's multi-billion-dollar propaganda campaign that was designed to change your mind, sow division in your country, and make you hate where you're from. The crux of China's campaign is to make you somehow think that you, as an American, and by the way, if you're not American, this also applies to you as well, you somehow have it worse off than a person in China. I kid you not. This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. What's a VPN? Well, it's a secure tunnel that hides everything that you're doing online, keeps you anonymous, safe, and protected, especially when you're on public Wi-Fi or on an internet connection that you might not trust. People at Surfshark care so much about security that they created a VPN app that secures your data with industry-leading measures by using uncrackable encryption and the most secure VPN protocols. What I can tell you about Surfshark is, well, it's fast, it's super easy to use, and as you connect to the server that offers the best speed by default, you end up with a fast, secure, and amazing connection that makes sure that no one can see what you're doing online. It's jam-packed with features that go way beyond the basics. In fact, you can use Surfshark VPN to open up all kinds of different libraries on Netflix and other streaming apps that you might not be able to get in your country. Surfshark VPN is the VPN that I recommend, and if you go to surfshark.deals/lawai86, you're gonna get up to 3 additional months for free. That's surfshark.deals/lawai86 and use the code lawai86 to protect your online privacy today. Thanks. Claim number 1, China is richer than the USA. False! You've seen the propaganda, the videos that make China look decades in the future, like China's 3,000 years ahead or whatever. The reality is that having ridden on a motorcycle through most of the country, most of China looks like this. Of course, China is a police state, an authoritarian country with no freedom of press, so they're not able to show you this, but the government in China crafts this idealistic image of what a utopia China is. But anyway, let me prove it. The average salary in China's richest, most prosperous, most important city is $25,000 per year. And cost of living ain't low either. In Washington, D.C., one of the richest cities in America, the capital of the country, it's $76,000 per year. But let's zoom out. How about the whole country in general? Well, the average salary in China is $16,000 per year. And in the USA, it's more than $70,000. When you adjust for cost of living, the USA is still far richer than China. Don't even get me started on income inequality. This $16,000 a year statistic, that's put out by China's National Bureau of Statistics, and it's incredibly disingenuous. But in reality, young professionals in China in big cities are making closer to $3,300 per year, not per month. The official statistics already suck, but the reality is way suckier. By the way, the poverty threshold in the USA to be called impoverished or living in poverty is about $14,000 per year. And in China, communist China, remember communism, where the government's supposed to take care of the people, and socialism with Chinese characteristics and all that stuff. The poverty threshold in China is, drumroll please, $339 per year. Not even per month, per year. China doesn't want you to know about this, so they pay for Google search engine optimization. I've been seeing this run rampant. Look at this. There are fake websites that come up with completely false information as the first search result with the purpose of misguiding the public so that pro-CCP social media accounts can use this as a statistic. This is unbelievable. They're saying that the average Chinese person's pulling in like $4,000 a month. I don't think so. In fact, when I try to click the source that they give, it goes nowhere. Guess what? It's made up, and it's the first result on Google. I call this statistic washing or stat washing. It's kind of like counterfeiting, but using statistics instead of money. Claim number 2, China has no homeless people. False. In fact, we recently uncovered a massive propaganda campaign who incentivized people to make content showing how bad the homeless problem is in the USA and claiming that there were no homeless people in China. Well, here. Examine for yourself. Done. Disproven. For real though, this couldn't be further from the truth. I saw lots of homeless people in China consistently throughout the entire country, and it's absolutely absurd to claim that there are none. There are no social programs in China. It's not a socialist country. They don't take care of their people, and there's very little way in the way of welfare and benefits, and there are no rights for homeless people to even exist. Yet they still do. So the USA really does look like a socialist paradise compared to China. You go stand in a welfare line in America and see how much money you get versus what you'd get in China. Because guess what? You'd be very, very disappointed if you were in China. Don't even get me started on the claims of how the Chinese healthcare system is better than the USA. China, the country where you have to pay first before they let you into the emergency room, or you die. And there's no soap in the bathrooms, and the place where you have to jockey for position and pray that the doctor knows what they're doing and you don't have to pay a bribe to them, because oftentimes you do. An American friend of mine was misdiagnosed in China and had most of his stomach removed unnecessarily. He also got an $80,000 US bill. It turns out when he got back to the USA, the doctors told him that it was unnecessary. I broke my knee in China, and I visited a bone specialist, the best in the city, recommended by all. The bone doctor was smoking a cigarette and prescribed me antibiotics and some herb pills. The US healthcare system is broken. China's is far worse. Claim number 3. Housing is cheaper, and China's infrastructure and public transportation are the best in the world. Mostly false. Let's go to the capital again, shiny Beijing. If you want to live in downtown Beijing, the best, richest, most important city in China, an apartment in downtown Beijing, which the government owns, by the way, you're not allowed to own your own property. You just lease it for 70 years. You still have to pay $3 million for a 2,000 square foot family apartment. And you have to live in Beijing. This is in the capital of China, so let's look at the capital of the US. Again, let's go back to Washington, D.C. Here's a house in a fantastic area of the capital, in a fantastic school district, in a low crime area, with a house that you actually own, and you don't have to give back to the government 70 years, like in China, for $1.2 million. Yeah, that's really expensive, but it's less than half the price of the Beijing apartment. Oh, and unlike in Beijing, where you just bought your $3 million box in the sky that you don't own, in Washington, D.C., you can actually breathe the air and drink the water. Housing in China is an absolute joke. It's prohibitively expensive. When people I talk to in China that are like coming out of college, they're making like $280 a month. How the hell are they ever gonna buy a house? Especially with the fact that there's no social safety nets, and now they have to take care of their parents too. No. Anyway, the infrastructure quality? Oh, we're seriously gonna bring this one up? China's tofu dreg construction chaos that you've been seeing all over the internet, literally buildings falling down everywhere. I visited multi-million-dollar mansions in China that were crumbling within a few years of construction. I visited countless unfinished ghost towns across the entire country with a capacity of hundreds of thousands of people that were just sitting there unfinished. Recently, China's biggest real estate developers have gone belly up, and millions of people in the country have been left to pay for unfinished housing projects that literally fall down sometimes. This isn't the envy of the world. This is America's 2008 financial and housing crisis on steroids. China's high-speed rail system is something that they are absolutely obsessed with promoting. The government's shooting out propaganda left and right about this, and I'll admit it, it's pretty cool to be able to traverse the country by rail so quickly. But not only has it been incredibly unprofitable and plunged China into debt, many of the train lines go nowhere. And guess what? Despite all the propaganda that shows you how easy it is to get on board, this is what it looks like a lot of the time. This is me and my friend trying to get on the train. I understand that not everyone in the USA wants to own a car and have to drive everywhere, but do you want this? Also, do you know why public transportation in China is cheap? It's because it's poor. Really poor. Like, people wouldn't be able to do anything if it wasn't cheap. Get out of the cities and China looks more like this. Get out of the cities and China looks like this. It's so poor that you wouldn't recognize the country because you've probably seen China's version of what reality is. They hide the poor, and I've seen it and I've lived it, and let me tell you, life sucks for China's 600 million rural people. This post here brags about how it only costs $20 to go to Jinan, which is a city in northern China. My rebuttal to this is, you still have to go to Jinan. Claim number 4. Chinese people are happier than Americans. False. China is not a happy country. It's hard. It's stressful. Life is bitter for most people. Whatever complaint you have in America, no offense, pales in comparison to what Chinese people have to go through. People can find happiness in life no matter where they are, okay? I get it. But I'm telling you, there is not a chance in hell that Chinese people are happier than the average American. In fact, data backs it up. According to the World Happiness Report, China is ranked 64th in terms of happiness in the world, while the poor, old, crumbling USA that's already falling apart and is at the bottom of the world, right? No, it's ranked 15th in the world. It's not even close. You can prove it in immigration data too. If life in China is so peachy and the US is so dismal, then why did millions of people leave China for the USA? Why did hundreds of thousands of Chinese people flee China and apply for asylum in America? Why did over 31,000 Chinese people illegally cross the border into the USA in 2023? Did I miss the news report or something? Are Americans doing the same? Are millions of Americans running away and saying, I'm out of here, and running to China? Of course, I'm being facetious here. You know that they're not. Claim number 5, China's the leader in green environmental measures. False. And this one is just insulting. China is the most polluted place I have ever been in my entire life. In some places, I would call it apocalyptic. Smokestacks belching flames, rivers and lakes of sludge, over 90% of the fresh water in China now unusable. It's gotten to a point where 99.9% of the population has their health affected by air pollution. You can't get fresh air in China. Also, China emits more CO2 than the developed world combined. People can claim that because there's so many people in China that I guess per capita, the CO2 emissions are lower, but the Earth doesn't care about per capita. If you believe in global warming and climate change, then it doesn't matter what one person put out, it matters what the whole global emissions are, right? The USA has reduced its emissions and kept its promise. China not only pollutes and emits most of the CO2 in the world, they're building new coal plants right now. Every single quarter, they add more and more coal-burning plants. It's compounding. All the while, they're telling everyone that they're leading the world in the fight against climate change and pollution. And somehow, people believe them. That's obscene. TikTok and other short-form media videos have inspired this whole China's better and America is so behind campaign. You know, the whole USA is crumbling, China's the answer, the solution. It is absolutely absurd that people are even putting this out there. It's absurd that we have to watch Chinese propaganda on our own social media platforms. And it's absurd that you're being told that American people have it worse off than China and Chinese people have it better off than Americans. That's pretty unfair to Chinese people. China is constantly behind elaborate campaigns to disrupt, fray, and destroy the the USA. In fact, it uses social media to do it. Social media campaigns from China create millions of fake accounts and pay influencers from around the world to spread conspiracies and promote the Chinese government's reputation and destroy unity in the USA. Anyway, unless something is done by elected officials or laws, or at least simply an increased awareness about these billion-dollar campaigns to destroy the USA through dissent and misinformation, China and its cohorts, so Iran, Russia, will double down and keep doing this until they win or get what they want. Remember the role that radio and newspapers played in kind of stirring up the conditions leading up to World War II? I want you to look me in the eye and tell me that this isn't just a repeat of history already unfolding.